This is going to be more of a soft-spoken whisper. I don't really know because I think it's kind of important information, but I also want to relax you. So this is a topic I actually wanted to talk about for quite some time, actually ever since I started my channel. But due to the circumstances that we are in currently, I didn't know if it would be appropriate or I didn't want to give misinformation. I've said this before, there's a lot of things going on in the airline industry right now, and about the COVID-19 and how it's affecting it. So talking about stuff within the airline industry can be quite complicated. But I do realize that travel within Europe right now is becoming more and more available and open. Plus, these are stuff that you could still take advantage of if you've had a problem with your flight in the last 3 years, at least. Some of them go up to 6 years, so keep that in mind. I think this is very important. So I'm going to be talking about the EU air passenger rights, and this is regulation. What is it? Where did I? Of course, put the regulation 261/400. If you want to look it up. It's basically a piece of legislation of regulation that was written in 2004 and is been enforced since 2005. However, a shocking amount of people are unaware of their passenger rights within the EU. Now, before I get into this, I want to say that I've claimed so much money since knowing this. Again, I do travel a lot, so it's inevitable. But I mean, yeah, like from certain events I remember in 2017 there was a big IT crash for British Airways that canceled a lot of flights, and I got a lot of money off of that, and I'll explain why. And yeah, overall I think I got enough money off of just claiming my rights, like claiming what is owned to me, because you'd be surprised how often you are entitled to these rights, but you just don't know about claiming them. And I've helped friends claim money too, so I thought I should be talking about that. And I will give a little note about the coronavirus at the end, about how it affects the coronavirus, but let's leave that for later. So, what flights qualify in this regulation 261? I just like to be smart. What counts? What kind of flights qualify for the EU passenger rights? So, the 27 countries in the European Union, as well as the United Kingdom. And yes, as of right now, the United Kingdom has agreed to adhere to the EU passenger rights laws. We don't know if that's going to change, but as of right now, they still are, and they, even during Brexit talks, have said that they will still be a part of the EU passenger rights laws. Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland. Also some territories, such as Guadeloupe, French Guiana, Martinique, Rhodion Island, Motet, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing these wrong, Saint Martin, French Alpes, the Azores, Madeira, and the Canary Islands. Yeah, I totally just googled that. I did not know that it applied to these islands, but apparently it does. It's mostly the French islands, so like Martinique and stuff. So that's pretty cool. So when I say EU flights, these are the flights I'm talking about, although sometimes there are exemptions for the territories that I've talked about, the ones I just mentioned, and I will not repeat in my horrible accent, because I'm assuming these are French. I didn't actually look into these islands. Yeah, I mean, I've been to Martinique, that's the only reason I know how to kind of say it, and the reason I know it's French. So, what are EU passenger rights? What is this regulation? So it is a passenger-friendly regulation. It is to hold airlines accountable for any delay, any misconduct within their business. And when you buy a ticket with an airline, you do have rights. And this is a very big thing. It's really, really popular. It's a big thing in Europe. Now, in the United States and different countries, it's a bit different. And I'm not going to be talking about you guys. I'm sorry. However, it doesn't matter if you have what citizenship you have. This is more about what you're flying. So let me get into this. These rights apply in these certain circumstances. Say you have a flight which is within the European Union. So say you're going from France to Germany, and regardless of what the plane carrier is registered, so it could be registered by a French EU, it could be Air France, for example, a French airline, or it could be, for some reason, if American Airlines is doing that flight, I don't really know, but I don't think they've ever done that. Well, if they have, it would also include that. So flights within the EU, all flights within the EU, so from the EU to the EU, are all valid in this program, are all valid in these rights. Now, if your flight is scheduled to arrive within the European Union from outside the EU, but this only applies with a carrier from an EU airline and not foreign carriers. So, for example, say we're flying from JFK, New York JFK, to Paris, Charles de Gaulle, I don't know, whatever. So you're flying them with Air France, and your flight's delayed. You would be able, again, I'm going to go into what the compensation stuff are, but then these rules would apply. However, if you did the JFK flight to Paris with American Airlines or United or whatever, these rules will not apply. So a big piece of advice that I actually could give you from this is if you are flying to a EU country from outside the EU, I would definitely recommend taking an EU airline, taking the airline of the country that you are flying to. I know there's a lot of factors with choosing what airline you're flying. For me, the biggest one is my mileages, but you can probably find, like, if you're depending on what company you're traveling with, you can definitely find like what alliance you're with, like the One World or the Ulster, whatever alliance. I'm pretty sure you can find a European Union one that would get you to where you need to go. So, for example, I always take British Airways just in case if I'm going even from DC, no matter where. Sorry, I'm talking really fast. I'm just like spitballing here. I'm trying to make it clear. I don't know if I'm making it very clear, and maybe that's gonna relax you a little bit. It also applies if your flight leaves from the EU and arrives at a non-EU country, and this applies to both EU and foreign airline carriers. So, say you're leaving from Paris back to JFK, it doesn't matter if you fly Air France or American Airlines. These rights still apply to you. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So the EU passenger flight laws are for all carriers within the EU, all carriers flying from EU to outside the EU, and EU carriers flying from outside the EU into the EU, to the European Union. So, what type of things are eligible for rights? The three things you are eligible to claim money on is delays, cancellation, and denied boarding. I'm going to be looking into each of these individually. So first I'm going to be looking into flight delays, which is our most common problem, I think, when we fly. And if you're flying within the EU and you're flying with budget airlines, I know a lot of people complain about having to wait, having delays, like massive delays, and they just don't know that they can get compensation for it. So if you have time, you probably might want to hope that it gets delayed for not for airline reasons. I'll talk about the extraordinary circumstances later, but so flights with delays with over 3 hours. So, but we're talking about your final destination here. So if you are doing a flight that is connecting to, that has a connection, and say your first flight is delayed, if you still get to your connecting flight and you arrive at the time that you booked, within 3 hours of that time, then you're not eligible for compensation. But if you arrive at your final destination over 3 hours, than you were meant to, then you are eligible for compensation. So 3 hours or more. So if you're doing a flight that's less than 1,500 kilometers, and it's delayed 3 hours or more, you can get compensation of 250 euros. Compensation starts from 250 euros to 600 euros, by the way. If it's delayed 3 hours or more and it's between 1.5 thousand kilometers and 3,500 kilometers, you can get a compensation of 400 euros. For flights that are 3 or 4 hours delayed, for flights that are delayed 3 to 4 hours, for more than 3,500 kilometers distance between an EU and non-EU airport, you get a 300 euro compensation. And for flights that are delayed to 4 hours or more, and it is more than 3,500 kilometers between an EU and non-EU airport, you'll get 600 euros. So that is the delay compensation. That's how much you would be compensated. You also, in order to be eligible for the compensation, you would have had to check in for your flight on time. So even if it's delayed, you still have to be checked in on time for your flight. So it's usually like 45 minutes before the flight. And you have to wait there. After 5 hours, you can choose not to take your flight. You will not get a reimbursement of €600. However, you will get a full refund of your ticket. And if you have a return ticket with that airline, you will also get a return ticket refunded to you. If you do choose to take the flight after 5 hours, then you are entitled to the €600 euro compensation. However, and this has happened to me, if your flight is delayed due to extraordinary circumstances, these laws unfortunately do not apply. And I actually have a story with this, and I'm going to say it. But so for example, acts of God such as weather problems or issues within the country, this is called force majeure, and this is like war and riots, then you will not be able to claim compensation. The compensation is only really claimed if there is a problem within the airline. So if it's because of staff strikes or maintenance problems, then that is the airline's fault, and then therefore they need to pay the compensation. So for example, I was delayed. I was flying from Washington DC to London. So I was flying from Dallas Airport to London Heathrow on British Airways, and my flight was delayed 6 hours. The plane that that we were taking was struck by lightning before it landed, because not ours, but the one that came from London to DC was struck by lightning. Planes get struck by lightning, it's not a big deal, but they had to do all these checks, and it took 6 hours. Now, the weather and stuff were fine, but I tried to claim compensation on that, because then I would have had €600 compensation for my delay. However, it was deemed an act of God. I went through this twice, and I'll tell you how to claim your EU passenger rights. There's a very good website resource that I use. You can also do it through the airline. But so I disputed this twice, and I didn't get money because it was considered an act of God that lightning struck the plane before, and they had to do safety checks, and it was for the safety of the passengers and whatnot. That was really annoying. Also, flight cancellations. So, if you have a flight which is canceled less than 14 days in advance, you are eligible for compensation. Therefore, so say you book a flight, so say like, I don't know, say you have a flight that's in 13 days and they cancel it, you can get compensation. If your flight is in 15 days, you don't get compensation. It's only within the 14-day limit, the 2-week limit. And if they cancel inside the 14-day period, outside the period, so they usually just need to give you a refund on your ticket, and they can also help you find another flight. But I'll go into that in a second. So, if your flight was canceled between 7 and 14 days before departure, you will most likely be given an alternative flight. And depending on the alternative flight, this is the compensations you will get. And again, I will link everything down below. You don't need to listen to me so much. I thought it was kind of relaxing how many numbers there are here, and just to give you an idea. So if the new flight they give you, if the departure is, if your flight distance is less than 1,500 kilometers, if your departure time is 2 hours or more earlier than your book flight, and your arrival is up to 2 hours later than booked flight, you can get compensation of 125 euros. If your departure from up to 2 hours later, 2 hours plus later, and if your arrival is 4 hours later than your original booked flight, you get 250 euros compensation. From 1,500 kilometers to 3,500 kilometers, if your departure is 2 hours earlier than booked flight and your arrival is up to 3 hours later than the booked flight, you get 200 euro compensation. However, if your departure is, if your arrival is 4 hours later than the booked flight, so than what you originally planned, then you get 400 euros. For more than 3,500, if your departure is 2 hours earlier than your booked flight, you get 300 euros. And the arrival is up to 4 hours later than your booked flight. And your arrival is, or your arrival is 4 hours later than your originally booked flight, you get 600 euros. If it was cancelled within less than 7 days, if it's less than 1.5 kilometers, your departure is at least 1 hour earlier than booked flight, and your arrival is up to 2 hours later than the booked flight, you get a compensation of 125 euros. If your arrival is at least 2 hours later than your booked flight, you get 250 euros. If it's a flight distance from 1,500 kilometers to 3,500 kilometers, if the departure is at least 1 hour earlier than booked flight and the arrival is up to 3 hours later than the booked flight, you get 200 euros compensation. And if your arrival is at least 3 hours later than the booked flight, you get 400 euro compensation. For more than 3,500 kilometers, your departure is at least 1 hour earlier than booked flight, and the arrival up to 4 hours later than the booked flight, you get 300 euros. And for arrival, if it is at least 4 hours later than your booked flight, you get 600 euros. Basically, the more hassle and time it is for you, the more money that you get, depending again on the distance. You will also be eligible for denied boarding. If you were denied boarding your plane, there could be due to several reasons, such as health and safety reasons or not having the right travel documents. But most of the case, denied boarding is due to overbooking. If it's about reg documents or visa stuff or health stuff, that's a case-by-case basis. I can't really give you a set answer there. If you do not voluntarily give up your seat due to overbooking, and flights overbook, and I can do a video about overbooked flights if you want, and I completely agree with the practice, by the way. So if you don't voluntarily give up your seat for due to an overbooking, you can claim compensation, and the compensation claim is dependent on what the new flight they give you and the amount of hours you are delayed to that destination, and that is again for 3 hours or more. It's delay, and it's less than 1,500 kilometers. You get 250. If it's between 1,500 and 3,500 kilometers, you get 400 euros. If it's more than 1,500 kilometers and within the EU, you get 400 euros. 3 to 4 hour delay, more than 350,000 kilometers between EU and non-EU airport, you get 300 euros. And 4 hours or more, then 4 hours or more for more than 350,000 kilometers between EU and non-EU airport, you get 600 euros. The compensation, which would be claimed, depends again how long your flight is. So sometimes an airline, I've been offered to be in an overbooked flight. Like they usually just give you money, like not like, I remember I've been offered like 300, 400 euros, something like that. It's up to you if you want to take that. You can say no, and also a lot of it depends on your status with the airline, whether they're actually gonna kick you out due to overbooking. But if you are actually kicked out due to overbooking and it's not voluntary, they do give a voluntary option to people, and if nobody takes it, then yes, you do have rights because you're denied boarding, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault. So now I'm just going to quickly talk about the coronavirus pandemic. I realize that this has been a really hard time for the airline industry. The claims that I'm saying right now, I don't know exactly how far they go within the certain circumstances. I know that if your flight is canceled due to the coronavirus, you're entitled to a full refund of your ticket or an alternative flight if there's a rescheduled flight. If you're stranded in an airport because of cancellation, you're entitled to care, which includes accommodation if you need it, food, communication. They have to help you out. However, some of the rights are not the same, such as, so it says here, so I got this from the EU website, at the same time, the guidelines clarify that the current circumstances are extraordinary. Compensation may not be given in a case of flight cancellation less than 2 weeks before departure date, for example. But this again depends. So you might have noticed if you're trying to book a ticket that there's a lot of, you can't book a ticket until it's like more than 15 days in advance, and that's usually why. So yeah, those are your EU passenger rights. So how do you claim these rights? So for me, I use a service called AirHelp. They're not sponsoring me. I wish they were. That'd be really cool. I've used them for years. They do take commission. They take 25% commission, but they save you a lot of time and hassle. Because when I've tried to do it within airlines, and I still have tried, like you tried to do it within the airlines, they kind of try to offer you a deal which isn't as good, such as voucher deals. My thing is like always take cash over vouchers, because first of all, vouchers expire, and you might forget to use them. That's happened to me, not in the case of compensation like this, but in another sense, for something else, it doesn't really matter. It just you forget about them and they expire, and it's not real money. So always go for real money. Always go for the one that is more lucrative. And airlines are more likely to give you offers that have to do with compensation, like compensation within like free tickets and stuff like that. So you would have to think about that. So and you'd have to argue with them a little bit more. It just takes longer. They purposely make it longer. AirHelp has really been good for me. I've again made a lot of money from knowing this. So AirHelp has a feature where it'll look through your email and find flights which they think might be eligible for claims. You have up to 3 years to claim flights which follow this criteria. So if you want, I would definitely recommend to go to AirHelp to scan your email and they'll check and try for you. If the case fails, you don't have to pay any money. So it's kind of like, you know, a win-win in that sense. I would definitely just recommend using them, especially if you don't know a lot about airlines and stuff. It's just easier to have them do it, and you still get money at the end of the day. So it's still really cool. I hope this video was somewhat relaxing. I know I talked really fast at some points and I talk kind of slower in others, but I thought it'd be interesting to try and do that as well in ASMR, talk really fast with numbers like and then slowly. Yeah, if you have any questions, like, let me know. I'll put the sources down below. Yes, safe travels, everybody.